that's a whole body of law, the circumstances under which a court, the courts of a particular country will recognize a judgment, entered by another court, say an absentia, say, in other words, somebody in Saudi Arabia or somebody in Australia gets mad because something you did here in Philadelphia, sends you some kind of complaint, gets it to your house, or has somebody drive up or uses, one of those international treaties to serve you. You say, wait a minute, this is a $50 transaction. I can't go to Perth. I can't go to Melbourne to defend this lawsuit. They get a judgment, and they say, okay, well now, we're going to transfer this over to the United States, and we're going to, garnish your bank account. Countries vary in their willingness to do that. So I just say this. The jurisdictional issue is a big one, and it is certainly, in the United States, when I say patchwork, in the United States, typically either you or the victim has to be in the state for them to be able to, enforce the laws of, say, Indiana or Utah or Nevada. In the international context, you get into what's called comity, not comedy, comity, C-O-M-I-T-Y, and that is the sort of the respect that other countries have for the laws of other sovereign nations, and there's a whole body of law on that. Way too much to go into right now, but that is an issue. Coming down the home stretch here, the FTC Act, Federal Trade Commission Act. FTC is a consumer advocate federal government agency, and among other things, it has the authority to investigate and bring enforcement actions to prevent the commission of unfair and deceptive trade practices. And one thing I've seen bots be utilized to do is to deliver, unfortunately, malware and adware, and in a deceptive way, and also not only deceptively, but in a way that is difficult to deinstall or remove. And the FTC is very public about the enforcement actions that it brings. They go right up on the website for all the world to see. If they go after you and the court agrees, there's going to be disgorgement of profits, a restitution of people. There's going to be an injunction, and if there's enough money involved, you're now on the radar screen of every plaintiff's class action lawyer in the country. As here's somebody that entered into a consent order, with the FTC, because that's typical what they do. Thou shalt, you come in and you agree not to do something, again. So once you have that, you've got a bullseye on you. So the way to avoid that, or give yourself the best chance of avoiding that, is to disclose what you're going to do up front, to your customers, and sometimes that makes it a harder sale, and that's why people try to bury it. So the takeaways: be careful with whom you do business, because you may, especially if you're perceived as somewhat of a deep pocket, or if you're kind of turning a blind eye and kind of knowing willful blindness to who you're doing business with, their sins may become visited upon you. Be careful how you market your bots. Again, court gets the sense that you're selling something, the main purpose of which is to enable the commission of copyright infringement or IP theft. Their sins will be visited upon you. Consider the effect of your actions on the contractual relationships of others. If your business plan is to, consists of selling software used to bomb somebody else's site, expect to get sued, folks. Okay, and expect to lose, and lose badly. Account for terms of service, terms of use, ULAs, whatever you want to call them, because it is those things that lay the groundwork for tortious interference claims. They lay the groundwork for copyright infringement and claims for breach of contract, depending on what the context is, whether you actually are privy with the defendant. And you cannot ignore, you cannot deploy your bots in contravention of what these things say. You will lose. And then finally, and this relates especially to the FTC context, be accurate and non-misleading your description of your use of the data and the software and what the software is going to do. And I can't promise you that you'll never get sued, for trafficking in bots. But if you do those 5 things, Frank's 5, you will increase your chances of not getting sued. Any questions? Right.
What can your Chatbots are? It's a company based in the company is AI for us. It's based in Holland, registered in the UK, but doing worldwide business. And especially when I'm looking at the United States and as a European, I'm always a little bit afraid of all those lawsuits and it's So what would you recommend to do? Because we are I'm based in Holland, so it's something.
Well, you have as I understand it, you're running a trade association.
Growing towards that direction.
Right. Yeah. Well, in the United States, and to the extent you want to have members in the United States, one issue that always comes into play for trade associations is the antitrust laws. Right? You were talking about your last bullet point was let's cooperate. Okay, that's fine. But when competitors get together and cooperate in this country, and actually probably in Holland too, well, the European Union, you have to watch how you're cooperating. If you're cooperating by saying, let's charge no less than X, right, you all go to jail, okay, for price fixing. If you are cooperating by saying, let's educate the relevant public about why bots are an appropriate substitute for various forms of advertising, that's okay. So to the extent, you start having meetings in the United States, you have members in the United States, there are antitrust issues you need to think about. But depending on what you're doing, there may be other things. But if you have no U.S. involvement, sight unseen, it's hard for me to say, don't worry about this or don't worry about that. But your chances of being hailed into court here if there's no U.S. members or activities is obviously a lot less.
Okay, but as soon as there are members, then. When there's something goes wrong, then you will use the U.S. court. They also say our terms and conditions are when something goes wrong, this court.
Well, for antitrust, if you have 3 or 4 members that happen to control 75% of all the, this is a silly hypothetical, but they have a substantial share of the bot market, or where they control or affect a substantial amount of commerce, and they go to your meetings and they collude and they fix prices or they allocate customers or they do things, yeah, well, they're jointly and severally. I mean, they'll be sued too, but I mean, it's that kind of thing.